Hey, good afternoon, everyone. How are we today? Yeah, it's sunny out there. How brilliant is that? Welcome to the Midweek Uplift with myself, Benjamin Stubbs, as my cool little jingle says. And if you're in the South Cheshire area, the little yellow thing in the sky is out today. So we're all loving it in the studio. So yes, welcome to the Midweek Uplift. I'm here for you Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday from 2 till 3, uplifting you with good music, hopefully, because I like the music, and great topics to talk about, uplifting topics, and great guests. And today is one of those days. And in the studio today, I've got the absolutely fantastic Philip Snow, who will be here with me all the way through till 3 p.m, talking about quite a few subjects and all the projects he's got going on at the moment as well. But if you would like to get in touch at any point, then we do welcome it. Of course, we love interactions from you. There's loads of ways. So if you sat down and ready with a pen and paper, right, you can tweet us at RedShift Radio UK, all one word. You can tweet us a comment or a message from myself or Phil on there. You can text, the most popular way of interacting. Text 01270 262 262. As I always say, it sounds like a landline number, but it isn't. You can text that 01270 262 262. I repeat these options a bit later on if you want to start writing down your questions. You can email studio@redshiftradio.co.uk. If you go to the brand new snazzy website, redshiftradio.co.uk, there is actually a contact form on there. And I'm sure there's one more way. Facebook. That's it. Facebook.com/RedShift Radio. If you like it, then you'll see all the posts that are on there, and we've put a post on there a bit about today's show as well. So there's plenty of ways to get interacting, and we've got a few good songs to line up as well. But I do love my little show. I get to talk about uplifting topics and things that you can do to help you improve your life and feel better in your life as well. But it's always great to have a guest on air because it's not just me. So, on that note, I'd like to welcome the fantastic Phil Snow. Sorry. How are we, Phil? Okay.
I'm fine, thanks, Benjamin.
I don't know why could you Phil Smith then? I don't even know a Phil Smith. Sorry, Phil Snow, welcome. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for getting me out on such a bright sunny afternoon.
I've dragged you out of the sun. Shame wasn't that yesterday when it was raining. No. But yeah, I met Phil. I do, as some of the regular listeners know, I do a Law of Attraction show on a Wednesday, normally. And I also do Law of Attraction workshops and all around the Northwest in certain areas. I do them in South Cheshire, and I met this fantastic gentleman there, and I thought he's got to come on the show. He's so inspiring and has got a lot of wise words to say. So again, Phil, thanks for coming on the show. Now, I always been on this side of the desk and interviewing people. I know a little bit about you, so I have to pretend that obviously the listeners out there don't. Hopefully they might know about you, but if they don't, I have to kind of ask from that point of view. So if someone said to you, tells a bit about you, a bit like on a dating show, how would you explain yourself and what you do as a person regarding all the kind of all these things that you do in your life? How would you describe that?
Well,
I know it's tough, but
it's tough, yes. And I don't want to give you my whole life story,
yeah.
But I'm 66 now, and at the age of 12. So this is my whole life story. I started a mission that I'm still on.
That's super.
At the age of 12, what I was doing was walking along by the tennis courts in Trentham Gardens, where I was a playing member, and thinking to myself, and I came to the realization that people don't love each other enough. And I thought, I'm going to spend the rest of my life sorting this out. So that's an ambition, isn't it? At the age of 12. And in a very real sense, I'm still on that mission. And this is the time when it's coming to its fulfillment. This is the year, 2012 is the year that I have been working towards, though I didn't know that until 1985. But I think I can say that really my whole life has been geared to that mission and to this moment.
Yeah.
So it's great for me to be speaking to you this afternoon on this mission at this time, because this is the time when I really need to fulfill what I set out to do all that time ago.
So when you said you discovered it, it comes to that realization when you were 12. Did you do something straight away? Did you do some sort of like mini club? Did you start doing? Is there anything that, or were you just thinking in your head, I want to do something, and you knew it was going to come in time?
Yeah, the thing I did straight away was to become a teenager.
We all have to
you
go
know what
through
it's
that.
like being a teenage boy.
Yes, we've all been there.
So, of course, my mission kind of went on the back burner, except to say that I had always been, as a child, someone who liked doing things for people. And I would say that, and this is part of my expression of loving people.
Yeah.
And I would say that as I went through my teenage years, I continued to do that. But this mission, this whole idea that I was going to do something on a broader scale, kind of went very much on the back burner.
Yeah.
And except to say again that when I left school, I went in for hotel management. I was brought up locally here. I went to Hanley High School. But I left Hanley High School in 1963 and went up to Scotland to study for hotel management. And that is a way of expressing service to others. I mean, hotels are all service, and it's about giving people a good experience, a good time, a good service. And I felt that this was absolutely the kind of thing that I wanted to do. And as I went on, many people would say through the years, you were born for this, weren't you? You were absolutely born to be an hotel manager. And I was, in that sense, because it just allowed me to give to people. And I had a career, including having my own hotel business in Edinburgh, right through to the beginning of the 1980s, certainly. So that was from 63 to the beginning of the 80s. And at the beginning of the 1980s, I started practicing meditation, transcendental meditation. And I moved to Skelmersdale in Lancashire, where they were starting a community for people doing meditation. In fact, what we were doing was called yogic flying. I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but you might have, and some of the listeners may have seen on television pictures of people sitting in the full lotus position in meditation, but bounding around on foam mattresses, bounding around the room. And that's called flying.
Actually, I've not seen it recently, but I'm sure I've seen that like on a YouTube clip or something before. Yeah.
Yes, and it's extraordinary. The thing is that this isn't deliberate bounding around. This is completely spontaneous within the meditation. Suddenly the energy comes, and you can't do anything with it apart from bound around like a rabbit. And although it looks really crazy and bizarre, it's actually doing something really, really important, which was for our community to take a lot of the stress out of the collective consciousness, and raise the collective consciousness in doing that. And so through what we were doing, we would be helping to raise the quality of life for everyone.
Yeah.
There was what was called a scientific formula, whereby if we had the square root of 1% of the population of Britain meditating, doing this yogic flying, it would be enough to take a lot of the stress out of the collective consciousness, out of the community, and raise the quality of life. So this is what we were actually aiming to do. But it was during that time, during the 1980s, that I heard that 2012 was going to be a really, really major year, when there would be what was described as a quantum leap of consciousness. Now, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, I was asking that. And consciousness has to do with awareness. And so a leap of awareness means expanding your awareness of who you are, what life is all about, what the universe is, that kind of thing. And I got very intrigued by this whole idea. But the main thing was that I thought, well, okay, so we're meditating and that's expanding our consciousness. But what about everybody else? Because not everybody's going to meditate. What about all the people in the world who won't know this is happening? How will they get through some sort of great shift in consciousness? And I've really been working on that in quite a conscious way ever since. And it's all coming to a head right now.
Well, it's interesting because I remember seeing somewhere again on another documentary I saw about that they were meditating in America, and only so many people did it. But but in the surrounding areas, the crime rate dropped massively. I think it was Greg Braden, one of Greg Braden's experiments, and it wasn't his experiment, but he was mentioning it, and he was saying that in this area where they were doing this meditation, the crime rates dropped throughout the whole time of that meditational state, showing that obviously you can influence other people when, and into a better feeling place. Because like I know we've discussed on the meeting we had the other day, but everyone just wants to feel better. Everyone wants to feel good, and everyone deep down wants to feel love, don't they?
Yes.
But somehow over the years, it's kind of got, it's kooky, it's a bit, wacky, but it's the most core feeling that we're all connected by, isn't it? And it's like, even it sounds funny when you're saying that we have to kind of like setting people to love more, and actually it feels good to love. It feels good to receive to love, yet it's such a struggle to get people to love, isn't it?
Yes.
Really. Right, we'll get on with the next song. We've got the Lighthouse Family in Ocean Drive, which I think is a really beautiful song. I love it, and again, it fits with the summery theme. And I'll be back with more from Phil straight after. If you have got any questions for him, then please do get in touch. We'll be finding out more about what he's actually doing at the moment towards the 2012 movement, and I'm sure how you guys possibly get involved as well. You can text 01270 262 262. You can email studio@redshiftradio.co.uk. You can tweet at Redshift Radio UK, or you can go to the website redshiftradio.co.uk and contact us on the contact form. Until then, a bit of Lighthouse Family and Ocean Drive, and I'm back with myself and Phil Snow, talking a bit more about all the things he's got going on now regarding 2012. Until then, enjoy this. So I've been posted on the Redshift Radio website. How do you create a more loving community? Some people are having a bit of fun with us, I think. Paint rainbows everywhere and have One Direction playing out loudspeakers, as well as pretty flowers everywhere like the Magic Roundabout. But people are disagreeing. One Direction, I don't think a lot of people are happy with that one. But again, it's all each to their own. Welcome back to the Midweek Uplift with myself, Benjamin Stubbs, and today my special guest, Phil Snow. He's here all the way through till 3 p.m. A very special show today. Normally it's just me, but we have got a special guest. I do like getting them in and hearing what they've got to say and what they are doing to help everyone feel better, help uplift communities and further afield. So we were chatting to Phil before. Welcome back, Phil. We've got a song for you coming your way soon, haven't you? But I like it too as well, so it's quite good. But anyway, so we left you before when you said you were in Lancashire until the late 80s. What happened after that? What was your next logical step?
Okay, at the end of the 1980s, my father died, and I thought it was maybe time to leave the meditation community and come back and look after Mother. This was in Stoke-on-Trent. And I did come back. In fact, she didn't need me. And so I went off again for about 18 months. But after that, she did need me. And I came back and was looking after her really until she died in 2003. And during that time, I had the chance to do a lot of studying, a lot of reading about this shift, this whatever was going to happen in 2012. And eventually, and this really brings me right up to about 2003, 2004, I decided that I would start a website about it and explain as much as I could what I understood to be this upcoming shift. And I called the website New Living, and the web address is newliving.org. And I subtitled it, Creating a More Loving World to Take Us Through to a Golden Age. So the theme was very much this thing about loving. And at the time, I was reading all sorts of different things about people's predictions and prophecies about 2012, because there are a lot of ancient cultures that have talked about this time as being a time of not exactly the end of the world, although you do hear 2012 being talked of in those terms. And of course, that's what that movie was all about. But
I think it's the end of the world as we know it.
It's much more that. It is much more that. But some of the ancient cultures would say that it's a time of a great renewal, the beginning of something very, very different. Certainly a higher state of some sort. I got quite interested in the Mayan culture and the Mayan calendar. And the Mayans talk about the sixth sun dawning at this time. But a lot of this was kind of, they seemed to know what they were saying. They did really seem to have a clear understanding that something big was going to happen at this time. But I couldn't see it. I couldn't see the evidence. And all I could do really was to say, and I opened a big essay that I wrote on my website with the words, "Time will tell." But it seems that in 2012 there is going to be some sort of a very big change coming about. And I've really persisted in that ever since, that even though I hear all sorts of different interpretations and understandings about what's supposed to happen in 2012, even today, I really can't see clear evidence that these things are happening. There is some evidence, which I'll come back to in a second. But otherwise, it was still as much of a mystery to me as it might have been to somebody who really hadn't even heard about it. But I wrote this essay and had the website out there, and I officially inaugurated New Living at the time of the Venus transit that took place in June 2004. Now, in those days, nobody seemed to know about the Venus transit and weren't interested, whereas this year, last month, we had the second of the pair of Venus transits that happens every 120 years or so. It's a very rare event.
I was going to say, what is it for people that don't know what a Venus transit is?
Well, the Venus transit is where the planet Venus passes across the face of the sun from our point of view. It's not an eclipse because it's a bit like seeing a full stop.
Yeah,
It's tiny, absolutely tiny. And you can't possibly see it with the naked eye, but it passes across the face of the sun. And it only happens twice every 120 years. It happens 8 years apart, exactly 8 years minus 2 days. And has always, at least over the last 5 or 6 centuries, been associated with a time when communications would suddenly take a great step forward. So, for example, back in the days of Magellan, who was a Spanish explorer, sailor explorer, that was the time when he made contact with people in the New World. And it was as if a whole new communication was set up, or the possibility for communication. And then I think the next time it took place, scientists around the world got together for the very first time to try to measure the distance from the Earth to the Sun. And they used this passage of Venus as a way of kind of triangulating the distance. Then I think was it the 1800s, when the telegraph was first introduced. So whenever it's happened, there have been major advances in communication. This time, according to an expert in the Mayan calendar, who is a friend of mine, and in fact I invited him over to Britain at this time in 2004 to launch his new book. He said that this time it was to do with creating a balance within the world between the East and the West, and also within every human being between the left brain hemisphere and the right brain hemisphere. And I don't know how much this is known, but generally speaking, we have been using our left brain hemisphere predominantly. And this is what's given us the kind of paternalistic, male-dominated, very rational, logical culture. Whereas the right brain tends to be a more feminine energy, more nurturing, more passive, more creative. And at this time now, and this is one of the reasons why you do get the rise of the feminine energy happening. And he was saying that this Venus transit will help to create that balance, which, in his opinion, might give rise to telepathy.
Yeah.
Because when the two sides of the brain become in balance, then more faculties of the brain open up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I thought that this would be a good time to launch my New Living project. And it's interesting that last month would have been, in a sense, the close of the Venus transit window, that 8-year window. So maybe kind of thing that I've been doing should also have been brought to some sort of completion.
Yeah.
And so I've been working with that New Living website ever since then. And one of the things I've done is to make videos explaining my understanding of all the different things that are going on in the world, and really to track the process as it unfolds. And I started the videos shortly after the financial crisis in 2008, which to me was the first opportunity I'd seen to start talking about what's going on in the world, because it was really the first time that in a very big way people were saying, what the heck's going on? What's all this about? Why, what's going on with the banks? Why don't we know about all this stuff that's going on? The credit, the debt, what's it all about? And ever since then, really, this awakening has been going on and gathering pace, and more people asking these very serious questions about, what is going on in the world? Who runs things?
Have you been following Ron Paul in America?
Oh, yes.
And again, whatever you think of Ron Paul, because obviously he's got a lot of likers and dislikers, he's really mentioning about the Fed in America and getting people to actually question, what is the Fed in America? Like us, what is the Bank of England? And who fines Barclays?
Yes.
Who fines Barclays? Where does that money go? He gets fined $3 billion, whatever it was. Where does that money go? And
yes.
It's getting people. That's what I really like about Ron Paul in America, the way he is actually getting people to question on what is the Fed and what is the Bank of England and who runs it and what powers have they got and why should they have our money and why should we bail? It's really getting people, like you said, getting people to question, isn't it?
Yes, and there have been several different strands of this mission that I'm following at the moment, one of which is to look at how the monetary system works. And in fact, way back in 1998, I was writing articles for the British Monetary Reform newsletter about the debt-based system.
Yeah.
I was on a radio show in 2004 saying it's the banks that rule the roost.
Yeah.
But in those days, people weren't asking that kind of question so much. They are now. And people are beginning to ask, well, who runs the world? Who are the real powers in the world? If it's not the governments, because the governments don't seem to be in control of the banks and the economy, and they don't seem to, all of this financial crisis seems to have taken the politicians really by surprise. And they've had to really kind of get their act together to understand how the economy really works and how the monetary system works and why all money is created as a debt.
Yeah.
And there's something here that is very, very unsavory about the way that our whole economy works. And it's corrupted at its heart. But it's not the governments that are doing it. So who's doing it? And people are beginning to ask very serious questions. Now, of course, we've got the Occupy movement going on worldwide at the moment.
Yeah.
And they're asking these same questions. They're seeing that there's something that's not right.
I'm a big fan of the Occupy movement. I really like the idea of it. When you actually watch them, again, ignore the mass media portraying it. They actually, a lot of their signs are saying, we occupy love. We just want, to create a fair system. We want a fair life. We just want, people don't want special treatment. They just want to live a fair life. When you realise and do some research into the banking system, like you said, it is a debt-based system, isn't it? And
yes.
But people don't know that, and it's not to diss anyone out there that doesn't know it. You just, the banks just kind of just trust and leave them to it, and you don't realise what a system it is, and and how it is. It's eating itself.
It's guaranteed to fail because inevitably there will be so much debt that the system can't cope with it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening at the moment. And it will crash.
Yeah.
And the big question is, well, what happens when it crashes? Because no one at the moment really has a vision for something to replace it. So people are beginning to wonder what's going to be happening over the next very few months, really.
Yeah.
Certainly a few years, but it's happening in a big way at the moment. And that's part of the evidence, to my mind, that something very big is happening at the moment. Not that you would say that this is something that's kind of cosmic in the way that the Mayan sixth sun might be. But it seems to me that the people who are really running the world, who are the power in the world, have timed their efforts to create what they're calling a new world order to this time now. And it seems to me very clear that there is an effort to control the human race by a very, very small group of people in such a way as to dumb us down. And that's something that I think we're all pretty much aware of when we hear that expression a lot.
Yeah, it's around a lot.
Yes, and so that to me is a clue that they are aware that there's a potential for people to start waking up and start finding out for themselves really who are we and how should we be living? What's our relation to the world, to life? And that could change things in a very big way.
And I think that's what's regarding that. It's obviously a big topic, and especially online, a lot of people discussing it about the powers above and whatnot. But again, it's really how you look at things, isn't it? Because they may want the control, but like I said, from what obviously you're doing and what we're going to talk about after in the second half of the show, it's inspiring the world to change. You know, from that strong contrast of what we don't want, it makes it really even more refined what we do want. And where we want more love, we want more freedom, we want more of these things. And that's what I think's stirring up. And I find it quite exciting that this year especially, there's so much... I'm excited by it. I'm not actually quite worried. I'm excited about what it's stirring up. People are being forced to the nth degree going, there must be something more. And there is.
Yes.
You know, and it's a lot simpler than what we think. And again, it's coming back to the real who we are, the love side of us. And I remember a good old phrase, you know, choose love or fear. And I really like that. It's such a simple question, choose love or fear. And you can watch yourself throughout the day. And when you do actually focus on love, when you actually focus on fear, and especially 2012, there's a lot of fear around it. Well, I'm actually choosing to see it from a love point of view because I'm excited by it. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more in the second half of the show. And talking about your Love Foundation and some the videos you do on YouTube as well. Lots of interesting things. I'll check the interactions as well. We'll get the next song on, and we're back more with Phil straight in the second half. Here's a brand new one from Owl City and Carly Rae Jepsen of Call Me Maybe fame, and it's called Good Time. So we're back with you in the second half with more Phil. Get those questions in, 01270 262 262. You can text us on that. Hey, welcome back to the Midweek Uplift. I'm here for you Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday on RedShift Radio. Hopefully bringing you great guests, uplifting music and uplifting stories. We've got Phil Snow in the studio. He's been talking about his life so far and his mission regarding 2012. We've touched on a few things about what we think possibly happened this year, but it brings us right up to date, Phil. So you obviously had this mission from when you were 12, you know, just the idea of spreading, you want people to love more. So what are you actually doing now, as in, I know we discussed it quickly off there, what are you doing now to pursue that path more?
All right. I remembered what my mission was when I was 12, saying, I want to sort out that people don't seem to love each other enough. And in studying everything that was going on about 2012 or all the different things people were talking about, I thought, well, this still isn't helping me to help other people generally to get through this period, whatever it brings. What is it that I need to do? And I came back to the idea that I felt I needed to inspire people to love each other more. And in thinking this, I started looking around on the internet to see who was doing something like this. And I came across an organization based in Florida called the Love Foundation, which is a not-for-profit organization whose mission is to inspire people to love unconditionally. I thought I think I want some of that. So I made some contact with them, and over the next year or so got very involved with them. I did some very good work for the Love Foundation in a voluntary way on Second Life, which is on the internet. It's one of these virtual worlds on the internet. And as a result of that, and also writing some love meditations for them, which were made into YouTube videos, I became a director of the Love Foundation in March of last year, and I'm still a director today. And this became my vehicle, really, for doing the kind of work that I wanted to do through New Living. And what I'm doing today is making a series of short films for the Love Foundation under the heading Love Begins With Me. And this is a main theme with the Love Foundation, that really you can't love other people unconditionally unless you love yourself unconditionally. And really your own ability to love from the heart is what you need, really, to be able to love other people and everything from the heart, which is where really love comes from. And so the theme of the films is Love Begins With Me. And what I'm doing is to interview people around the world who, at this stage, certainly it's people who are connected with the Love Foundation in various ways, have been members or subscribers in one way or another. And so far I've created 8 hour-long short films of these interviews, which are now on YouTube.
Yeah.
Under our Love Begins With Me film channel. And this is something that will be ongoing. I'll continue to interview people, and it's working out very, very well. It's doing exactly what we hoped it would do, which is to inspire people about the value of loving unconditionally, and how it changes your life, and how it's possible to change other people's lives, and through that have a kind of ripple effect out into the world. And so this really is the key way in which I'm fulfilling this mission.
So how can people watch these videos? I know you said before, I've got a list here. Is it the Love Begins With Me film YouTube channel? So just www.youtube.com/user/Love Begins With Me film. Can they just search it? Is there anything they can search?
Yes, if they search for Love Begins With Me, put some quote marks, inverted commas, around that, and you come up with some films, and look some videos, and then look below it, and it would say either Love Begins With Me film as the channel,
yeah,
or it would say the Love Foundation, because they're going on the Love Foundation's YouTube channel as well.
Ah. Oh,
and so we're getting a lot of views.
Which type of people have you interviewed for the Love
Well, they're very mixed, but actually the first person that I interviewed was Christopher Gilmore, who lives here in Crewe.
Oh, we know Christopher Gilmore.
Yes, and of course I met Christopher Gilmore through the Law of Attraction group, the one that you run, Benjamin. That was the first time I'd met him, and strangely, he'd been involved with the Love Foundation longer than I had. He'd been on their newsletter list since 2005. And so, of course, we had a lot of... Yes, very much so. And so I interviewed him, and his was the first video to go up. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I mean, he's a wonderful man.
Yes.
And then after that, I had a list of people who had offered to do interviews, mainly in the States, in the United States. One in South Africa, and another one here in Britain. And so over a period of about 3 weeks, I did these interviews, end of May, beginning of June. And I'm just finishing off the editing of each of them, putting them up as videos on YouTube. And then I've got a whole run of new interviews to do.
Oh, super!
And so what we're hoping is that we'll start getting, good numbers of views on these videos, and I rather have a feeling that because it is working very, very well, and people who are doing these interviews are enjoying doing them very much, that we will take it further than we've taken it so far.
I was going to say, actually, what do you see yourself at, not to kind of preempt the future, but where do you see this going? What is your aim with this?
Well, I would like us to have videos that are seen by very, very, very large numbers of people. Now, how that's going to happen is not clear to me yet. It could happen by virtue of someone very well known being interviewed, someone who's got a very big following, and who could generate hundreds of thousands of views. Now that's quite a possibility. I don't think that's really unrealistic. It hasn't happened yet, but I think that as 2012 goes on, and the shift of consciousness that we're talking about proceeds, which I'm hopeful will happen, and I believe it will. Then as more people get on board, as it were, I think it's possible that we'll start getting very big viewer numbers.